It's time for this week's episode of Brandon's Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics.
Welcome back to Brandon's Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Asheville Tourist Baseball Assistant General Manager, Samantha Fischer. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to work in professional sports?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing sports, which I think is like a pretty common story for everyone. I just didn't really realize the platform there was to work in sports. So it wasn't until I got to college and I, found out that I could major in sport management and what that entailed in terms of taking marketing classes and business classes and law classes and risk management classes. How many avenues there were in sports to take advantage of. So here I am today, but I definitely, it was eye-opening to see how many different aspects of sports you could work in.
What was your time like with the Myrtle Beach Pelicans as the game operation?
So that was when I was in college. I went to Coastal Carolina University for my undergrad degree. So I did that internship while I was there. Stayed the summer in South Carolina, but it was great. I mean, it was really my first taste of minor league baseball from a working standpoint. I grew up going to Newark Bears games in New Jersey, so I had previously been to minor league baseball games, but that was really like seeing the back end and what goes into it. But it was a great experience. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I definitely did a lot of crazy stuff, and I was in a mascot probably every other day, but it was nice to have that opportunity to build some kind of a foundation for myself moving forward.
What were some of your roles with whenever it came to promotions?
Yeah, I was on our promotional team was built with interns. So we ran every single in between inning promotion. We assisted with pregame. So everything from national anthems to first pitches to play ball and field of dreams teams. So there was certainly a lot going on from an on-field aspect, but then behind the scenes, we were doing a lot of we were tying up a lot of loose ends. So people that handed out giveaways or, different promotional theme nights, we would be involved in kind of like taking those from, plan A to plan B. So, on Disney Princess Night, like we were the ones dressing up as princesses. I remember being Belle from Beauty and the Beast, and like it's just like that's what you do. And when you're an intern, it's there's nothing pretty much off limits. So anything and everything.
What was it like whenever you got your first role in the MLB with the Boston Red Sox?
So I did that internship almost in conjunction with my final semester of school. So it was a 12 credit course on the school side, and then I was there full time. And that was a really eye-opening experience. I don't know if I was quite prepared for all the work I was about to take on, but what I loved most about it is that it was a role more than it was an internship. So every day I came in and I didn't necessarily have to report to somebody and get a list of tasks. I knew what I was coming in to do because that was my role. So it was definitely looked at as more like an entry level position, even though it was still an internship. And then the Red Sox had just won the 2013 World Series. So there was tons of World Series celebrations going on. I got to plan with another intern basically like a fan festival that happened right before spring training. And I would say around 15,000 people came to that. And, there's players signing autographs and the World Series trophies, and there was inflatables on the field. And so it's just like a very big production. And it was a little overwhelming to plan, but I obviously took away so much from it. And then on a game by game basis, I was running pregame. So your national anthems, your first pitches, similar to Myrtle Beach. So I kind of had that experience already. But on opening day of spring training, we did a huge World Series celebration acknowledgement, and we had every single player get called out onto the field to line up. And that was probably the most stressful 25 minutes of my life, just making sure every single player came out. It's kind of like herding cattle. But yeah, I got to do a lot of cool stuff. Did all the in-game promotional giveaways. So I ran around with a Nesson camera from one end of the ballpark to the other. So certainly got my steps in and took a lot of sun in that Fort Myers heat, but it was a really great experience.
That's amazing. Of course, whenever you got the job with the Asheville Tourist as the director of marketing, what was that entail?
So I actually started as a sales associate and kind of worked my way into that director role. But initially I was selling groups and picnics and season tickets, and we just kind of had a need for social media at the time in my first year. And so I, asked to start an Instagram, like something very, very small that was still coming about at that time, but ended up being important. It's a piece of our everyday plan now. So yeah, so I just kind of started out small, and then every year I was fortunate enough that my bosses, would give me more responsibility and more of a role within the marketing department as well, which we're a small team, so the department's really one person, but it's just nice to be able to be expected to fulfill those duties, and every year getting more and more work was really rewarding for me.
What was it like whenever you were running the social media?
I mean, I still am. Like I said, it's a small team, but it's people don't realize how much work it is. I think I kind of tried to explain this the other day to somebody else, but people take such a passionate pride in their sports teams, right? So there's almost like an ownership compartment, or like a component for people that root for sports teams, right? And so you expect replies, you expect to be acknowledged. And so it's not a 9-to-5 job. You have to be able to answer people, whenever. If there's a rain delay, you need to be ready to go with graphics and verbiage and all that entails. So it's the most time consuming, exhausting part of my job, but it's also really fun as well. We get to put together some fun videos. I have a good time responding to people and keeping it lighthearted and quirky. But we've really made a push these last couple of years to humanize our social media accounts, to sound like humans, because we are humans behind our profile pictures. But it's fun, but it's a lot more work than I think most people realize.
Can you talk about, of course, what were some of the things that you did in this upcoming year to help build your social media, as baseball was not happening for almost 9 months?
Yeah, I mean, initially, when everything first shut down, it was kind of, we don't know when we're coming back. And I just treated it like an extended off season. We always say, how do we stay relevant in the off season? So that's what we did. And we tried to play off of certain pieces. So on, opening day, we followed an opening day timeline, and I had a group send us a national anthem, like a past national anthem performance. And we played that at, 7:02 p.m. And, we really just tried to do our best to stay relevant and not push things in people's faces, because there were more important things going on in the world. As the summer progressed and it became more apparent that we weren't going to have a season, well, then we kind of had to flip things around and say, okay, not only how do we stay relevant, but how do we safely make some money, to put it bluntly. And that social aspect came hand in hand with putting on different events that people could come to and do so in a safe manner. One of those was like dining on the diamond. So getting a bunch of content of people eating on the field, like where else can you say you ate at second base, So really trying to capitalize on those moments that were accessible for the first time, even though we were in the middle of a pandemic.
That's an amazing idea of the dining on the diamond. What is your role as the creative marketer?
That's it's got a couple of different um, faces to it. I mean, really, it's evolved into this kind of like fan forward model where, you know, it's our daily promotions, it's our, once per season promotions, it's um, our social avenues. So it's really like all inclusive. And it's nice. I get interns and a promotions manager during the season, and so that always helps kind of like feed the brain of ideas, because I'll be the first person to say that I get burnt out. But like I mentioned earlier, staying relevant and staying in people's faces without seeming pushy.
Can you talk about, of course, what is the day-to-day roles as the assistant general manager?
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably a very fluid title for a lot of teams. Here, what it's really meant to me is I've got a sales component, so tickets and sponsorships. I've got a marketing component, so whether that's radio, TV deals, social media, promotions, on-field promotions, that's kind of that aspect. Community relations, which is really marketing as well, kind of falls under that umbrella. How we interact with the community and how we stay relevant locally. So on a game day basis, I deal with fan interactions, and I'd love to say that everyone comes to an Asheville Tourist game and never has a complaint, but that's not the reality. So if you come to a game and you have a complaint or a question or a comment, I'm your girl. And then I deal with some risk management factors like security, police, making sure we have emergency medical services on a game day. So definitely a lot of logistical aspects to my job as well.
What are some of the traditions that you have helped implement with the Asheville tourists?
So the two that I'm really proud to have been a part of are Beer City Tourists and Asheville Hippies. So Beer City Tourists started a couple years ago. We change our name once a season. Usually it's in May, and it aligns with Asheville Beer Week. Asheville's Beer City, USA. So we have a really big beer scene, and it's pretty much right across the street as we're located downtown, which is nice. So that one's great. We always do jerseys and hats, and we auction them, and money goes to charity. So that one's always really fun. Most recently, we've been partnering with Versus Cancer for that one. And so that all goes towards the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. So it's just a really nice cause. And then Asheville Hippies started as well a couple years ago. I guess you could call them our in league rivals, the Greenville Drive. They're about an hour south, and we go back and forth every year. We have fun banter. They call us hippies because Asheville's kind of got like a hippie scene, and we made a bet with them that year. Whoever won the overall season series would change their name for a night. Well, we actually tied that year. I think it was something like 12-12. And so we said we would still do it because it was for charity, and they opted to not do it, which is fine. But it's turned out to be an unbelievable merchandise promotion for us. It's turned out to be a really great promotion from a media standpoint. We usually get a lot of coverage for it from like ESPN and whatnot, and then as well as the donation piece. So we auction off all the jerseys and usually make quite a bit of money for a charity.
That's amazing. What are some of your game day traditions like for game day?
So I would say the biggest one that's kind of synonymous with Asheville is Thirsty Thursday. And we do own the trademark to it. Thirsty Thursday began in Asheville at a tourist game back in the 80s. So I would say there isn't one that comes close to that one. We have over 30 beers, local beers on draft. So it's certainly a very big night here, and the crowds it's usually a sellout. So you can't go wrong coming to a Thirsty Thursday at McCormick Field.
How have you implemented with COVID being a factor in this upcoming year? What are some of the things that you have implemented?
In terms of safety, we obviously will be adhering to all local, state, and Major League Baseball guidelines as they determine our capacity. So right now, North Carolina's at 30%, but I think technically with Major League Baseball, we have to be at 25%. So, we've got pods of seats throughout the seating bowl, and every seat that can't be used is zip tied. So can't bring, you can't sit in a seat that isn't part of a pod. And that's really just to maintain social distancing. So all these pods are, we held measuring tapes and we walked around the ballpark spacing things out 6 feet. So definitely a lot of legwork has gone into that. Our ticket operations department has done an amazing job putting together a seating plan. And then, most of what we've put in place, I'm sure, is pretty congruent with a lot of other teams. So we'll have, new bag policies. Obviously, masks will be 24/7. We won't be doing promotions in the same way we used to. Can't do on-field promotions. So it's just a lot of pivoting, really. And, what we can't do on the field anymore, we got to figure out a way to do for the fans still. So some things are more obvious, like, pod seating, and then the other kind of behind the scenes things are promotions.
When it comes to promotions and stuff, have you already thought about some of the stuff that y'all plan on doing?
Yes, and it kind of a loaded question. Have we thought about it? Absolutely. But we are going to just kick the season off with the most purest, baseball scene you could possibly imagine. Because we want to know what this looks like. We really won't know until we open up for the first time. And then we'll probably start backloading our promotions on the latter end of the season so that more fans can enjoy them.
How has the season being pushed back a little bit? How has that helped you to prepare for this upcoming year?
Always take a little bit more time to get ready. I would say it's nice to have the extra time, but I also almost just want to start tomorrow so that I know how things look. But pushing things back a little has given us time to really determine whether our seating bowl plan will be effective. So I think it's more logistical than anything. Now the season being a month later really aligns with intern school schedules. I know that seems like a quirky thing you wouldn't think about, but we heavily rely on our interns. So that's pretty big for us.
Can you talk about, of course, the process of being affiliated with a major league team?
Yeah, the process looks a lot different now than it did just a year ago. We were essentially offered an invitation from the Houston Astros to be their high A affiliate. That was step one in a long process of paperwork and, agreeing to a player development license with them. We did accept it, and we announced that last month, as did the rest of Major League Baseball and their affiliates. But on the surface, you won't really see too much of a change. It's really behind the scene things that are different. But the process is a lot of paperwork. That's really what it is. And we're signed on through the 2030 season. So Asheville will be enjoying professional baseball for the next 10 years.
That's amazing. What advice would you give upcoming future people looking to become assistant general managers for a baseball team?
I think like the biggest thing I always tell my interns is like, just, be the hardest working person in the room, because people notice hard work. You might not get patted on the back all the time, but people notice hard work. And so that'd be number one. Network, remember people, reach out to people, stay in touch with people. I don't think there's anyone in sports that hasn't been helped by somebody else at some point. So most people are usually pretty willing to help. And then, that's really, those are my two big ones that I tell my interns. I guess the last one would just be like, don't be afraid to, have to dig into something you don't want to do before you can get to where you do want to do, or before you get to what you do want to do.
That's amazing. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with Asheville Tourist Baseball?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter, and my handle is at Sam _Fischer, Fischer. And then you can find the Taurus on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And it's at Go Tourists on Twitter, and then at Asheville Tourists on Instagram and Facebook.
Thank you again, Sam, for your interview, and best of luck in this upcoming season.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Sam, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you so much.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.